Hello, word nerds. Welcome to my podcast. It's called The Dictionary. I just got an email today from Radio Public. They were just letting me know that my podcast was added to their collection of indie podcasts to watch. It was specifically dated August 7th, which was a couple of weeks ago. But I hope that list or collection or whatever it is sticks around. So hopefully more people will see this. All right, let's get to the first word. It is antimycin A. antimycin. And the next word is just the capital letter A. This is a noun from 1949. A crystalline antibiotic, C28H40N209, used especially as a fungicide, insecticide, and miticide or miticide, called also antimycin. And apologies that you've been hearing more of those plosives recently. When I say a P sound usually, it blows air on the microphone and it gets an irritating sound. The reason for that is because a while ago I decided to just start holding the microphone in my hand. I had it on a stand, but it got really irritating to find a good position as I'm reading the words on the page. I sort of need to move the microphone or move my body so I can see the words clearly. So the easiest solution for this was just to hold the mic in my hand, and I'm much more movable. But the downside of that is I don't really have a good place to put the screen that fixes the plosive, so maybe in the future I'll see if I can figure that out. Just a little behind the scenes for you there. All right, next is anti-neoplastic. All one word, it's an adjective from 1898, inhibiting or preventing the growth and spread of tumors or malignant cells. Next we have anti-neutrino, antineutrino. This is a noun from 1934, the antiparticle or antiparticle of the neutrino. Next we have antineutron. All one word, it's a noun from 1942, the antiparticle of the neutron. Feel like I just had deja vu there. Are you sick of the anti-words yet? Because I'm getting a little bored with them. All right, next we have anting. This is an interesting word, anting. It's like if you were pretending to be an ant, you would be anting. This is a noun from 1936. Bird behavior in which ants are rubbed on the feathers to obtain chemicals as formic acid from the ants. So why do they do this? Why do they want to get the chemicals like formic acid from the ants on their wings? What benefit do the birds get from this? That's really interesting. Are they going to a costume party where they are supposed to act like ants? Or do they just like the smell of the ants? I'm sure it's much more complicated than that. Next we have antinode or antinode, antinode. This is a noun from 1875, a region of maximum amplitude situated between adjacent nodes in a vibrating body. Antinodal is an adjective. Next we have antinomian, antinomian. This is a noun from 1565. One who holds that under the gospel dispensation of grace, the moral law is of no use or obligation, because faith alone is necessary to salvation. 2. One who rejects a socially established morality. Antinomian is an adjective, and antinomianism is a noun and kind of a hard word to say. This is from the Greek nomos, which means law. Next we have antinomy, antinomy. I'm guessing this is somewhat related to the last one. It's a noun from 1592. 1. A contradiction between two apparently equally valid principles or between interferences correctly drawn from such principles. 2. A fundamental and apparently unresolvable conflict or contradiction, as in antinomies of beauty and evil, freedom and slavery. That is from Stephen Holden. Antinomic is an adjective. Next we have anti-novel, Antinovel. I'm guessing it's something that's against books. I don't know, we'll see. This is a noun from 1899, a work of fiction that lacks most or all of the traditional features of the novel. Anti-novelist is a noun. That's one who writes an anti-novel or anti-novel. Now I am curious what an example of an anti-novel would be, and then I would probably have to read it. Next we have anti-nuclear. This is an adjective from 1958. 1. Opposing the use or production of nuclear power. 2. Tending to react with cell nuclei or their components as DNA, as in anti-nuclear antibodies. 2 words that both start with anti. Next we have antinucleon. This is a noun from 1946, the antiparticle of a nucleon. Now we have anti-nuke, N-U-K-E. It's an adjective from 1975, and we have the one definition of anti-nuclear. So go back about 15-20 seconds to hear that. Next we have antioxidant. It's a noun from 1919, a substance as beta-carotene or vitamin C that inhibits oxidation or reactions promoted by oxygen, peroxides, or free radicals. Antioxidant is an adjective. Next we have anti-ozonant, Antiozonant. It's a noun from 1954, a substance that opposes ozonization or protects against it. Next we have anti-parallel. Couldn't you say just perpendicular? Probably not. This is an adjective from circa 1660. Parallel, but oppositely directed or oriented, as in anti-parallel electron spins. Yep, that totally helps me. Also as in 2 anti-parallel chains of nucleotides comprise DNA. Next we have antiparticle. It's a noun from 1934, a subatomic particle identical to another subatomic particle in mass but opposite to it in electric and magnetic properties as sign of charge, that when brought together with its counterpart produces mutual annihilation, especially a subatomic particle not found in ordinary matter. I wonder if that is what antimatter is made of. Next we have antipasto, Antipasto. It's not antipasta. This is a noun from 1590, any of various typically Italian hors d'oeuvres. Also, a plate of these served especially as the first course of a meal. This is from anti plus pasto, which means food. It's Italian. That is from the Latin pastus, from the verb pascere, which means to feed, and there's more at the word food, something I love. Next we have antipathetic. It's an adjective from 1640. 1. Having a natural aversion. Also, not sympathetic. Synonym is hostile or hostile, depending on how you want to say it, as in a government antipathetic to democracy. 2. Arousing antipathy. Antipathetically is an adverb. Next we have antipathy, a word that was mentioned in the previous definition. It's a noun from 1592. 1 is obsolete, opposition in feeling. 2. Settled aversion or dislike. 3. An object of aversion. Synonym says, see the word enmity. That is a synonym for all definitions. Next and last word for this episode is anti-personnel or anti-personnel. Antipersonnel. It's an adjective from 1939, and it says, designed for use against military personnel, as in an anti-personnel mine, M-I-N-E. The word of the episode is going to be the word anting, because I think that's interesting. I was interested in a couple other ones, but that one just took the cake. All right, thank you very much for listening. Please join me in subscribing if you haven't already. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell everybody you know about this ridiculous podcast. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the dictionary. Yeah, let's do this. Let's get to the words. First is antiperspirant. ANTIPERSPIRANT. This is a noun from 1920, a preparation used to reduce perspiration. Next we have antiphlogistic. ANTIPHLOGISTIC. It's an adjective from 1715, and we have the synonym anti-inflammatory. Next we have antiphon. Is that how it's pronounced? I think so. ANTIPHON. It's a noun from the 15th century. 1. A psalm, anthem, or verse sung responsively. 2. A verse usually from Scripture said or sung before and after a canticle, psalm, or psalm verse as part of the liturgy or liturgy. Canticle is CANTICLE. Psalm, if you are not familiar, is spelled PSALM. The etymology says this is from the Latin antiphona, and there's more at the word anthem. Next we have the word antiphonal. ANTIPHONAL. It's the first form of two. It's a noun from 1537, and we have the synonym antiphonary, which we will read very, very soon. Now we have the second form of antiphonal. It's an adjective from 1705 of relating to or suggesting an antiphon, antiphon, or antiphony. Antiphonally is an adverb. And now we have antiphonary. That's how it's pronounced. ANTIPHONARY. It's a noun from the 15th century. 1. A book containing a collection of antiphons or antiphons. I still don't know how to pronounce that word. We'll just say antiphon. 2. A book containing the choral parts of the divine office. And the D and the O are capitalized in divine office. I don't know what that is. Is that where God lives? And his angels? That reminds me of a They Might Be Giants song called She's an Angel. Go listen to it. It's good. Next we have antiphony. ANTIPHONY. It's a noun from 1592. Responsive alternation between two groups, especially of singers. Next we have antiphrasis. That's a weird one. ANTIPHRASIS. This is a noun from 1533. The usually ironic or humorous use of words in senses opposite to the generally accepted meanings, as in the quote, "this giant of 3 feet 4 inches." This is from anti plus the Greek phrasis or phrasis, which means diction, and there's more at the word phrase. So it's a little bit like sarcasm, but not exactly. Next we have antipodal. ANTIPODAL. It's the first form of two. It's an adjective from 1646. 1. Of or relating to the antipodes or antipodes. I should know this, but I don't. But we will get to that word soon. Specifically, situated at the opposite side of the earth or moon, as in an antipodal meridian or an antipodal continent. I hate it when I come across words like antipodes or antipodes because I feel really stupid when I pronounce them incorrectly. 2. Diametrically opposite, as in an antipodal point on a sphere. So this is a perfect example to understand what this word is exactly, because if you were to look at the North Pole and the South Pole of the Earth, those are on exactly opposite sides of the globe. Nah, not the globe, we'll say the planet. And so they are antipodal because they are opposite from each other, which is where we get the part anti or anti. and they are poles. That's where we get podal from. 3. Entirely opposed, as in a system antipodal to democracy. Now we have the second form of antipodal. It's a noun from 1880. Any of 3 haploid cells in most angiosperms that are grouped at the end of the embryo sac farthest from the micropyle, called also antipodal cell. And here we have that word, and it looks like it's pronounced antipode, antipode. But how do you pronounce the plural version? It is antipodes. That's how you pronounce it. Thanks, guys. I hope I remember that. Antipodes. This is a noun from 1549. 1. The parts of the earth diametrically opposite, usually used in plural, often used of Australia and New Zealand as contrasted to the Western Hemisphere. There is a website, I don't remember what it is, but I'll see if I can find it, that allows you to input a city from any part of the world, and it will tell you the point that is exactly opposite on the globe. We could use antipodal from the point that you input. I think I did that for Chicago, and it just came up somewhere in the water, but it was probably pretty close to Australia or New Zealand. Number 2, the exact opposite or contrary. Antipodean is an adjective or a noun that is spelled Antipodean. I think I just get really confused with these words because the syllable that gets emphasized changes depending on the form of the word. So we have antipodal, we have antipode, also the way the vowels are said changes. We have antipodes, and we have antipodean. It's very confusing. Next we have antipoetic. It's an adjective from 1847 of relating to or characterized by opposition to traditional poetic technique or style. Next is antipollution. It's an adjective from 1872, designed to prevent, reduce, or eliminate pollution, as in anti-pollution laws. Anti-pollution is also a noun. We will do one more for this episode. It is anti-pope, Antipope. It's a noun from the 15th century, one elected or claiming to be pope in opposition to the pope canonically chosen. So it's not saying that it's an adjective describing somebody who doesn't like the pope. It's describing somebody who is trying to become the pope when one has already been chosen, I think. I am going to pick antiphrasis as the word of the episode, Antiphrasis, because it's a very interesting word in and of itself, but I also like the definition. It's an ironic or humorous use of words and senses opposite to the generally accepted meanings, and I sort of like that sense of humor. All right, that will end this episode. Thank you for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. It is I, Spencer, and this is the book, The Dictionary. It's also a podcast called The Dictionary. First word for this episode is antiproton, Antiproton. It's a noun from 1940, the antiparticle of the proton. Next we have antipsychotic or antipsychotic. It's a noun from 1958, any of the powerful tranquilizers as the phenothiazines and butyrophenones. What? Phenothiazines is Phenothiazines, and the other word is spelled Butyrophenones. Let's try that word again. Butyrophenones. That is completely wrong, but we will move on. So let's start that definition again without the part in parentheses. Any of the powerful tranquilizers used especially to treat psychosis and believed to act by blocking dopamine nervous receptors, called also neuroleptic. Antipsychotic is also an adjective. Next we have antipyretic, antipyretic. This is a noun from circa 1681, an agent that reduces fever. It's also an adjective. Next we have antipyrine. It's a noun from 1884. An analgesic and antipyretic, C11H12N2O, formerly widely used but now largely replaced in oral use by less toxic substances as aspirin. Next we have antique, but it's not the antique you're thinking of. It is spelled ANTIQ. It's an abbreviation for antiquarian or antiquary. And next we have antiquarian. It's the first form of two. It's a noun from 1610, one who collects or studies antiquities. Now we have the second form of antiquarian. It's an adjective from 1771, one of or relating to antiquarians or antiquities. 2. Dealing in old or rare books. Antiquarianism is a noun. Next we have antiquark, ANTIQUARK. It's a noun from 1964, the antiparticle of the quark. So I think we have seen a similar definition with protons and neutrons, neutrinos, and maybe a couple other ones. Next we have antiquary. It's a noun from 1586. We have the synonym antiquarian. Next we have antiquate. It's a transitive verb from 1596, to make old or obsolete. Antiquation is a noun. Next we have antiquated. It's an adjective from 1601. 1. It has the synonym obsolete. It's not telling me that it is obsolete, it's the synonym obsolete, as in an antiquated calendar. 2. Outmoded or discredited by reason of age. Being out of style or fashion, as in antiquated methods of farming. 3. Advanced in age. And for all definitions, it says see the synonym old, O-L-D. Next, we have the word antique. This is the one you thought it was before, A-N-T-I-Q-U-E. It's the first form of 3. It's an adjective from 1527. 1. Existing since or belonging to earlier times. Synonym is ancient, as in antique trade routes to India. 2a. Being in the style or fashion of former times, as in antique manners and graces. 2b. Made in or representative of the work of an earlier period, as in antique mirrors. Also, being an antique. 3. Selling or exhibiting antiques, as in an antique show. And again, we have the synonym old, O-L-D. Now we have the second form of antique. It's a noun from 1530. 1. A relic or object of ancient times. 2a. A work of art, piece of furniture, or decorative object made at an earlier period and according to various customs laws at least 100 years old. 2b. A manufactured product, as an automobile, from an earlier period. And now we have the third form of antique. It's a verb from 1884. Transitive definition is to finish or refinish in antique style. Give an appearance of age to, as in antique a table. The intransitive definition is to shop around for antiques. Antiquer is a noun. Now we have antiquity. It's a noun from the 13th century. 1. Ancient times, especially those before the Middle Ages. 2. The quality of being ancient. 3a and b use the word antiquities. That's plural. So here is 3a. Relics or monuments as coins, statues, or buildings of ancient times. 3b. Matters relating to the life or culture of ancient times. 4. The people of ancient times. Now we have anti-rejection. It's an adjective from 1964, used or tending to prevent organ or tissue transplant rejection, as in anti-rejection drugs or anti-rejection treatment. Next, we have antiretroviral. It's an adjective from 1979, acting, used, or effective against retroviruses, as in antiretroviral drugs or antiretroviral therapy. Antiretroviral is also a noun. Next, we have antirheumatic, antirheumatic. This is an adjective from 1758, alleviating or preventing rheumatism, as in, again, antirheumatic therapy or antirheumatic drugs. It's also a noun. Next, we have anti-roll bar. There is a hyphen after anti. It's a noun from 1951, and we have the synonym sway bar. Next, we have antirrhinum, antirrhinum. It's spelled weird, and it's pronounced weird, at least in my mind. This is a noun from 1548, and we have the synonym snapdragon. I think that's a flower. It says this is New Latin. It's a genus name from the Latin word for snapdragon. It's from the Greek antirrhinon, which is combining anti plus rhin, R-I-R-H-I-N, which means nose, and there's more at the prefix anti. And the last word for this episode is very anticlimactic. Ooh, I think we read that a few episodes ago. It is antis, A-N-T-I-S, and it is the plural of anti, A-N-T-I. And the word I'm going to pick, I think, is antirrhinum, just because it's spelled weird. And that's cool. All right, thank you very much for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the dictionary. We are at the top of page 56. Yes, we are. First word for this episode is antiscorbutic. A-N-T-I-S-C-O-R-B-U-T-I-C. It is an adjective from 1725. Counteracting scurvy. That's what it means. As in, the antiscorbutic vitamin is vitamin C. Antiscorbutic is also a noun. Next we have anti-Semitism. Yes, we have another sad, sad word. There is a hyphen after anti, and the S is capitalized. This is a noun from 1882. Hostility toward or discrimination against Jews as a religious, ethnic, or racial group. Anti-Semitic is an adjective, and anti-Semite is a noun. I don't think I have to have much of a discussion about this word. If you weren't familiar with it before, you have now heard the description. Anything that has to do with hate in any way is something that I don't like. You could say, I hate it. But I also hate to hate things. Weird. Next, we have antisense. A-N-T-I-S-E-N-S-E. It's all one word. It's an adjective from 1977, having a sequence complementary to a segment of genetic material, specifically of being related to or possessing a sequence of DNA or RNA that is complementary to and pairs with a specific messenger RNA, blocking it from being translated into protein and serving to inhibit gene function, as in antisense drug therapy. Also as in antisense RNA. Compare to the words missense and nonsense. I shall spell those for you. First one is M-I-S-S-E-N-S-E, and the other one is just our normal word nonsense, N-O-N-S-E-N-S-E. That was a very long definition. I'm surprised I got through it as well as I did. There was a little bit of editing. Hopefully you didn't notice, but pretty minimal considering that was a big one. Next we have antisepsis, A-N-T-I-S-E-P-S-I-S. It's a noun from 1875. The inhibiting of the growth and multiplication of microorganisms by antiseptic means. And antiseptic is our next word. Antiseptic. It's an adjective from 1751. By the way, it is also the first form of two. 1a. Opposing sepsis, putrefaction, or decay, especially preventing or arresting the growth of microorganisms as on living tissue. 1b. Acting or protecting like an antiseptic. 2. Relating to or characterized by the use of antiseptics. 3a. Scrupulously clean. Synonym is aseptic. There's just the letter A before the word septic. 3b. Extremely neat or orderly, especially neat to the point of being bare or uninteresting. I think you could say minimalistic would be another synonym for that. If you're talking about describing somebody's room or something like that in a decoration sense, that's what I was looking for. 3c. Free from what is held to be contaminating. 4a. Coldly impersonal, as in an antiseptic greeting. 4b. Of relating to or being warfare conducted with cold precision from a safe distance with few or no casualties on one's side, as in antiseptic bombings. Antiseptically is an adverb, and the etymology says this is adding anti to the Greek word septikos, which means putrefying or septic. Now we have the second form of antiseptic. It's a noun from 1751, the same year as the other one. A substance that inhibits the growth or action of microorganisms, especially in or on living tissue. Also the word germicide, that's the synonym. Next is antiserum, antiserum. This is a noun from 1901, a serum containing antibodies. Next we have antisocial. This is an adjective from 1797. 1. Averse to the society of others. Synonym is unsociable. 2. Hostile or harmful to organized society, especially being or marked by behavior deviating sharply from the social norm. Antisocially is an adverb. Next is antisocial personality disorder. That is 3 separate words. It's a noun from 1979. Interestingly, the previous word, antisocial, was from 1797. We just flip-flopped the 9s and the 7s. That's the nerd in me coming out. A personality disorder that is characterized by antisocial behavior, exhibiting pervasive disregard for and violation of the rights, feelings, and safety of others, starting in childhood or the early teenage years and continuing into adulthood, called also psychopathic personality disorder. Next we have anti-solar, solar like solar panels that get energy from the sun. It's an adjective from circa 1890, being or having a direction away from the sun, as in the anti-solar point. Next, we have antispasmodic, antispasmodic. This is an adjective from 1763, capable of preventing or relieving spasms or convulsions. Antispasmodic is a noun. And as usual, I've mentioned this before, sometimes they're anti, sometimes they're anti, and I'm just saying them as they come out. Next and last word for this episode is antistatic, antistatic. Also could be antistat. This is an adjective from 1952, reducing, removing, or preventing the buildup of static electricity. So when you get a shock, let's say you rub your socks on the carpet and you touch like a door handle or a person, would the resulting shock be anti-static? Or is there some other process that you can do that will get rid of the static electricity other than getting a shock, which, man, that can really hurt. All right, that was the last word. I have to now pick a word of the episode. Do I want to go silly? Or do I want to go political? Maybe I should switch back and forth. I don't know what I picked last time. Can't remember. This time, I'm going to go silly. With the first word, antiscorbutic. because it is a silly word to say. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary, and I am still looking for a sign-off. I just haven't put any actual thought into figuring it out, so I just keep on saying the same thing every time. Thank you and goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of this podcast. We are still in the anti-words, words that start with A-N-T-I, although they're not always using the actual anti-prefix. Anti, whatever. Looks like we are going to go through, it looks like the last anti-word is the second to last word of this episode. And for fun, we can just make it the very last word so everything is neat and tidy. All right, first word for this episode is antistrophe. A-N-T-I-S-T-R-O-P-H-E. This is a noun from circa 1550. 1A, the repetition of words in reversed order. Could you please give me a description? No? Okay. 1B, the repetition of a word or phrase at the end of successive clauses. 2A, a returning movement in Greek choral dance exactly answering to a previous strophe. S-T-R-O-P-H-E. Would it be strophe? I don't think so. 2B, the part of a choral song delivered during the antistrophe. Antistrophic is an adjective. Antistrophically is an adverb. Next is anti-style, all one word. That second part is the word style, like I have terrible style in my clothes. This is a noun from 1964. A style, as of dress, based on the rejection of current or established styles. Next we have antisymmetric. It's an adjective from 1923, relating to or being a relation, as the quote is a subset of, that implies equality of any two quantities for which it holds in both directions, as in, the relation, capital R, is antisymmetric if A, capital R, B, and B, capital R, A, implies A equals B. So I think it's saying in that example, if A equals B, then ARB and BRA equal the same thing, because R equals R. Makes sense, I guess. Next we have antithesis, A-N-T-I-T-H-E-S-I-S. This is a noun from 1529, 1A1. The rhetorical contrast of ideas by means of parallel arrangements of words, clauses, or sentences, as in the quote, action not words, or the quote, they promised freedom and provided slavery. Obviously, that wasn't an exact description, that was in parentheses. And whenever something is in parentheses, it's really just giving a little bit more information, sort of like a sub-example within the definition. It's not an actual example that uses the word in it. So again, this semi-example is the quote, action not words. That is an example of an antithesis. There is another quote that I read, they promised freedom and provided slavery. 1A2, we have the synonyms opposition and contrast, as in the antithesis of prose and verse. 1B1, the second of two opposing constituents of an antithesis. 1B2, the direct opposite, as in, her temperament is the very antithesis of mine. 2. The second stage of a dialectic process. It looks like this is a Greek word. It literally means opposition, and that is from antitithenai, to oppose, and that is made by combining anti plus tithenai, which means to set, and there's more at the word do, D-O. Next is antithetical, also antithetic. It's an adjective from 1583. 1. Constituting or marked by antithesis. 2. Being in direct and unequivocal opposition. Synonym says see the word opposite. Antithetically is an adverb. Next we have antithrombin. A-N-T-I-T-H-R-O-M-B-I-N. It's a noun from circa 1911. Any of a group of substances that inhibit blood clotting by inactivating thrombin. Next is antithyroid, antithyroid. It's an adjective from 1908, able to counteract excessive thyroid activity, as in antithyroid drugs. Next we have antitoxic or antitoxic. It's the word toxic with anti in the front of it. This is an adjective from circa 1890. 1. Counteracting toxins. 2. Being or containing antitoxins, as in antitoxic serum. And here we have antitoxin. It's a noun from circa 1890, the same year. An antibody that is capable of neutralizing the specific toxin as a specific causative agent of disease that stimulated its production in the body and is produced in animals for medical purposes by injecting of a toxin or toxoid, with the resulting serum being used to counteract the toxin in other individuals. Also, an antiserum containing antitoxins. Next we have antitrust. It's an adjective from 1890. There's a lot of anti-words that were coined around the same time. Of, relating to, or being legislation against or opposition to trusts or combinations, specifically consisting of laws to protect trade and commerce from unlawful restraints and monopolies of unfair business practices. Next is antitruster. It's a noun from 1947, one who advocates or enforces antitrust provisions of the law. Next is antitussive, antitussive. It's a noun from circa 1909, a cough suppressant, one that suppresses a cough. Antitussive is also an adjective. Next is anti-utopia. There's a hyphen between the words. This is a noun from 1966. 1. We have the one definition of the word dystopia. 2. A work describing an anti-utopia. Anti-utopian is an adjective or a noun. Another form is anti-utopian. It is an adjective or a noun. Next is antivenin, antivenin. It's a noun from 1895, an antitoxin to a venom. Also, an antiserum containing such antitoxin. So it's an antitoxin to a venom, venom, but our word is antivenin, venin. So a change in letters there. But we do have here antivenom, venom. It's a noun from 1904, and we just have the synonym antivenin, what we just read. We are almost there, people. Hold on tight. Next is antivitamin. And it does say the Brits would call it an antivitamin, but we say antivitamin. This is a noun from 1927, a substance that makes a vitamin metabolically ineffective. And here we go with the last anti-word and the last word of this episode, anti-white, antihwhite. It's an adjective from 1906, opposed or hostile to white people. And if we go back a couple of pages, about 9 or 10 episodes, we do have the opposite of this, anti-black. So I'm glad to see that at least there's some equality in this book. Really, neither one is appropriate in my book, my mental book in my head. But, obviously, like I think I said before, there are people who are anti-white and anti-black and anti-Semitic. And so these are words that we have to live with. That's why they're in the dictionary, even though they might not make us feel very good. So I guess if I want to flip-flop my words of the episode from being silly or interesting to more political, I would pick anti-white for this word of the episode. There's no specific reason other than that. I guess it sort of encapsulates in this moment all of the negative words that are out there. I don't want people to think that I'm being a proponent for one side or the other. I am not at all. This word just happened to land in a place where I decided to be a little bit more political. Obviously, anything that has to do with hate in any form has to be taken with a grain of salt or is very difficult to talk about, which I can't really do in a short amount of time, and I know that I already talk about politics probably more than I should, given that this is the dictionary. But there you have it. That's the end of the episode. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the dictionary. First word for this episode is the word antler, A-N-T-L-E-R. It's a noun from the 14th century, one of the paired deciduous, solid, bony processes that arise from the frontal bone on the head of an animal of the deer family. Also, a branch of the antler. Antlered, with an ed at the end, is an adjective, and antlerless is also an adjective. This is from the Latin antioculare, which is the neutral of antiocularis, which means located before the eye. That is from the prefix anti plus oculus, which is eye, and there's more at the word eye. I think the word is deciduous. I said that at the beginning of the definition. It is spelled D-E-C-I-D-U-O-U-S. I hope I'm not about to sound stupid, but I think that also could be related to trees, although it could be spelled slightly differently. It's not a word that's in my everyday vocabulary. But if it is related to trees, there must be some reason that antlers and trees are related. They must have chosen the word deciduous for both cases. So yeah, we are going to move on now. Enough about antlers. Next, we have antlion. 2 words. Yeah, it's the tiny little ant, and it's the big, strong lion. It's a noun from 1815. Any of various neuropterous insects, as of the genus Myrmelion, having long-jawed larvae that feed on insects as ants, and including some that dig conical pits to capture prey. Now I need to see a picture of what an antlion is. Next we have Antonian, capital A-N-T-O-N-I-A-N. It's a noun from circa 1907, a member of one of several monastic communities, as the Armenian Antonians, that follow a rule devised by Saint Anthony. Next we have antonomasia, A-N-T-O-N-O-M-A-S-I-A. It's a noun from circa 1550, the use of a proper name to designate a member of class, as the word Solomon for the phrase wise ruler. Also, the use of an epithet or title in place of a proper name, as the phrase the bard for the name Shakespeare. This is a Latin word which means use of a new epithet for a proper name. It's from Greek antinomasian, which means to call by a new name. And that is from anti plus onomazine, which means to name. And that is from onoma or onoma, which means name. And there's more at the word name. Next we have antonym, A-N-T-O-N-Y-M. It's a noun from 1870, a word of opposite meaning, as in the usual antonym of good is bad. Antonymic is an adjective, antonymous is an adjective, and antonymy is a noun. Next we have anter, or anter, not sure. It is spelled A-N-T-R-E. It's a noun from 1604, and we have the number 1 definition for the word cave. I assume it's just the French word for cave, and it is from the Latin word antrum, which doesn't say what it means, but I assume it means cave. Next we have antrum, interesting. A-N-T-R-U-M, it's a noun from circa 1751, an anatomical cavity within a bone, as the maxilla, or hollow organ, as the stomach. Antral is an adjective. This is Latin, as we learned in the previous word, which means cave, and it is from the Greek antron, which is akin to the Armenian word air, A-Y-R, which means cave. Next we have antsy, A-N-T-S-Y. It's an adjective from 1838, one we have the synonyms restless and fidgety, as in antsy children. Also the synonyms impatient and eager, as in antsy for a new challenge. 2. Synonyms are nervous and apprehensive, as in antsy investors. Next we have Anubis, capital A-N-U-B-I-S. It's a noun from 1708, a jackal-headed god in Egyptian mythology who leads the dead to judgment. This is from the Greek Anubis, which is from the Egyptian word, I do not know how to pronounce this, but it is spelled I-N-P-W. Next we have Anuran, A-N-U-R-A-N. It's a noun from 1900. Any of an order, Anura, of amphibians comprising the frogs, toads, and tree frogs, all of which lack a tail in the adult stage and have long hind limbs, often suited to leaping and swimming. Anuran is an adjective. This is from the Greek, a plus ura, which means tail, and there's more at the word ass, A-S-S. Next we have anuria, A-N-U-R-I-A. It's a noun from 1838, absence or defective excretion of urine. Anuric is an adjective. Next we have anus, A-N-U-S. This is a noun from the 15th century, the posterior opening of the alimentary canal. I love seeing very scientific and specific definitions of words that we often think of as very dirty or childish or immature. But that's the thing about these, is that these are just words. I've said it many, many times before. And I am as immature as the next person, sometimes more so actually, but I still do appreciate seeing the actual definitions of a lot of these words. It sort of brings me back to realize that these are just words to describe things. That's really all it is. This is a Latin word. It means ring, also means anus, which is the word itself, and it is perhaps akin to the Old Irish an, A-N-N-E, which means ring. And here we go with the last word of the episode. It is the word anvil, A-N-V-I-L. It's a noun from before the 12th century. 1. A heavy, usually steel-faced iron block of which metal is shaped as by hand hammering. 2. We have the synonym incus, I-N-C-U-S. 3. The anvil-shaped top of a cumulonimbus, and that is a cloud. And we have a little black and white drawing of a man, I'm assuming he's a blacksmith, using an anvil. So he's got a piece of metal in one hand, and he's got a hammer in the other hand, and he's about to hit the piece of metal on the anvil. I'm sure you all know what an anvil is, especially if you've seen old cartoons. They use anvils in those all the time. The etymology says this is from the Old English. It's akin to the OHG. Darn it, I keep on forgetting to look up what this is. I think it's old something German, but the word is anafalz, A-N-A-F-A-L-Z, and that means anvil. And that is akin to the Latin pellere, which means to beat, like you're beating the piece of metal on the anvil. And there's more at the word felt, F-E-L-T. Again, not sure how felt is connected to anvil, especially because I'm thinking it's the fabric felt, but maybe it's not. I don't know. The word of the episode is going to be antlion. I know that I picked antbear not that long ago, but again, I don't know why. Just combining two animals that shouldn't be combined is just interesting in my brain, and I gotta go look that up. All right, that ends this episode. Thank you very much. Tell your friends. Contact me if you want to say anything. Information is in the episode details. Thank you and goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the Dictionary. Don't worry, I will try to get some guest readers in here soon, so you don't always have to listen to me. First word for this episode is anxiety, A-N-X-I-E-T-Y. This is a noun from circa 1525. 1a. Painful or apprehensive uneasiness of mind, usually over an impending or anticipated ill. 1b. fearful concern or interest. 1C, a cause of anxiety. 2, an abnormal and overwhelming sense of apprehension and fear, often marked by physiological signs as sweating, tension, and increased pulse, by doubt concerning the reality and nature of the threat, and by self-doubt about one's capacity to cope with it. Synonym is the word care. Again, a very long and complex description, but I'm assuming very accurate as well. Luckily, I don't really suffer from anxiety on a day-to-day basis. If it's a really big situation, for instance, when I went bungee jumping, the last few seconds before I jumped off, I got pretty anxious. But in general, I don't, and I am grateful for that. But I do know a lot of people who get anxious over little things every day, and they have to sort of figure out ways to deal with it. So that is a real thing. And if you are someone who deals with anxiety, I recommend starting off with meditation. I think that's a big thing that will probably help. All right, moving on, we have anxiolytic, anxiolytic. This is a noun from 1965, a drug that relieves anxiety. Anxiolytic is also an adjective. Next, we have anxious. We're still in this anxiety realm. It's an adjective from circa 1616. 1. Characterized by extreme uneasiness of mind or brooding fear about some contingency. Synonym is worried, as in anxious parents. 2. Characterized by, resulting from, or causing anxiety. Synonym is worrying, as in an anxious night. 3. Ardently or earnestly wishing, as in anxious to learn more. Synonym for all definitions is the word eager, E-A-G-E-R. Anxiously is an adverb, and anxiousness is a noun. This is Latin from the word anxious. It's akin to the Latin angere, which means to strangle or distress. And there's more at the word anger. I do sometimes suffer from anxiousness. That is not necessarily a negative thing, but there are definitely situations that are upcoming in my life that I can get anxious about, either immediately or in the future. Sometimes it can be a little negative, a little nervous, but usually it's more excitedness. All right, next we have the word any, A-N-Y. It's the first form of 3. First one is kind of long, so let's get to it. It's an adjective from before the 12th century. 1. One or some indiscriminately of whatever kind. That was an interesting definition. But here we have a couple sub-definitions for that. Number 1 definition. 1A. One or another taken at random, as in ask any man you meet. 1B. Synonym is every. Used to indicate one selected without restriction, as in, any child would know that. Well, don't make me feel bad about it. 2. One, some, or all indiscriminately of whatever quantity. 2A. One or more. Used to indicate an undetermined number or amount, as in, have you any money? 2B. Synonym is all, A-L-L. Used to indicate a maximum or whole, W-H-O-L-E, as in, needs any help he can get. 2C, a or some without reference to quantity or extent, as in, grateful for any favor at all. 3A, unmeasured or unlimited in amount, number, or extent, as in, any quantity you desire. 3B, appreciably large or extended, as in could not endure it any length of time. This is from the Old English einig, A-E-N-I-G, which is akin to the O-H-G einag, E-I-N-A-G, which means any. And then there's the Old English word an, which means one, and there's more at the word one, O-N-E. Now we have the second form of any. It is from before the 12th century. I guess it's a pronoun. Yeah. 1. Any person or persons. Synonym is anyone. 2A. anything or things. To be, any part, quantity, or number. And here we have the third and final form of the word any. It's an adverb from the 14th century. To any extent or degree. Synonym is at all. Two separate words. As in, was never any good. Also as in, no, it doesn't help me any. Next we have anybody. All one word. It's a pronoun from the 14th century. Any person. Synonym is anyone. Now we have anyhow. All one word. It's an adverb from 1690, 1a. In any manner, whatever. Boy, those definitions are weird. They're just worded oddly, and I'm sure they're very accurate, but it's just weird to say in any manner, whatever. There's no comma, there's no nothing in there. That's just the phrase. 1b, in a haphazard manner. 2a, at any rate. 1b, in any event. Next we have any more, all one word, and we have some usage information at the end, which we haven't seen in a while. This is an adverb from the 14th century. 1. Any longer, as in, I was not moving any more with my feet. And that is from anai nin. I don't know if I pronounced the first name correctly, but it is A-N-A-I-S. And the I has an umlaut, the two dots over it. 2. At the present time. Synonym is now, as in, hardly a day passes without rain anymore. And here we have some usage information. It is a little confusing, so I'm going to see what I can do to make this as clear as possible. And just right off the bat, they are talking about two forms of the word anymore. There is the single word version, A-N-Y-M-O-R-E, and there's the two-word version, A-N-Y space M-O-R-E. So I will try and put a little extra space in the two-word version to make it clear. Although both anymore and any more are found in written use in the 20th century, anymore is the more common styling. Anymore is regularly used in negative, interrogative, and conditional contexts, and in certain positive constructions. And to make this more complicated, they have added examples for each one of those things. So the example for negative is, no one can be natural anymore. That is from May Sarton. The example for interrogative is, do you read much anymore? The example for conditional is, if you do that anymore, I'll leave. And the example for positive constructions is, the Washingtonian is too sophisticated to believe any more in solutions. And that is from Russell Baker. The usage goes on to say, in many regions of the U.S., the use of anymore in sense to is quite common in positive constructions, especially in speech, as in, everybody's cool anymore. That's from Bill White. Also as in, every time we leave the house anymore, I play a game called Stump the House Breaker, and that is from Irma Bombeck. The positive use appears to have been of Midland origin, but it is now reported to be widespread in all speech areas of the U.S. except New England. And it looks like the two-word version of anymore didn't come up again, but that's okay. All right, we are almost done with this episode, just a few more short ones to go. Next is anyone, A-N-Y-O-N-E. It's a pronoun from circa 1500, any person at all. Literally anyone. Next is any place, all one word. It's an adverb from 1916, in any place. Synonym is anywhere. Now we have the first form of the word anything. It's a pronoun from before the 12th century. Anything whatever. Any such thing. And there was a colon there in the pause that I made. Now we have the second form of anything. It's an adverb from before the 12th century. Synonym is at all, two separate words. A phrase for anything is anything like, and that means in any way. Synonym again is at all, as in It's not anything like as good as it used to be. Next is any time, all one word. It's an adverb from 1926. At any time, whatever. And the last word for this episode is anyway. Anyway. It's an adverb from the 13th century. 1. Synonym is anywise, all one word. That reminds me of Pennywise. Number 2. In any case. Synonym is anyhow. So that was the last word for this episode. I am going to pick anxiety as the word for the episode because that is a big thing that a lot of people deal with, and so I just wanted to pick it. All right, that's the end of the episode. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Thank you and goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the dictionary. Hey, guess what? We're still in the A's. Page 57. Let's get to it. First word is anyways. This is an adverb from the 13th century. 1A is archaic, and it has the synonym anywise. 1B is a dialectic form, to any degree at all. 2 is also chiefly dialectic, and it has the synonyms anyhow and anyway. Next, we have the first form of the word anywhere. It's an adverb from the 14th century. 1. At, in, or to any place or point. 2. To any extent. Synonym is at all, as in, we're not anywhere near to being finished. 3. Used as a function word to indicate limits of variation, as in, anywhere from 40 to 60 students. Now we have the second form of anywhere. It's a noun from 1775. The definition just says any place. Now we have anywheres. It has an S at the end. It's an adverb from 1775, and this is also chiefly dialectic, and we just have the synonym anywhere. So in certain dialects, instead of saying anywhere, they say anywheres. Next we have anywise, all one word. It's an adverb from the 13th century. In any way, whatever. Synonym is at all. Next we have Anzac, all one word, capital A-N-Z-A-C. This is a noun from 1915, a soldier from Australia or New Zealand. And we get this from taking the A from Australian, the N and the Z from New Zealand, the A from Army, and the C from Corp, C-O-R-P-S, Anzac. Next we have AO. Both are capitalized. This is an abbreviation for 1, account of, or 2, and others. Next we have AOK. All caps. There is a hyphen after the A. It's an adverb or an adjective from 1961, and it just means very definitely okay. I found that definition humorous. I hope you did as well. Next we have A1. The A is capitalized, and then it has the number 1. There is no space. It's an adjective from 1801. 1. Having the highest possible classification, used of a ship. 2. Of the finest quality, synonym is first rate. Next we have A1C. So they just tagged on a C to the previous one. It's an abbreviation for Airman First Class. Now we have AOR, all lowercase. This is an abbreviation for aorist. And let's check if I pronounced that correctly, because aorist is the next word. And yes, I think I did pronounce it correctly. It is spelled A-O-R-I-S-T. It's a noun from 1566. An inflectional form of a verb typically denoting simple occurrence of an action without reference to its completedness, duration, or repetition. Aorist or aoristic are adjectives, and aoristically is an adverb. This is from the Greek oristos, which means undefined, and that is from combining a plus horistos, which means definable, and that is from horizon, which means to define, and there's more at the word horizon. Next, we have aorta. It's a noun from 1543. The great arterial trunk that carries blood from the heart to be distributed by branch arteries through the body. And then it tells me to see the heart illustration. Aortic is an adjective. This is from the Greek aorti, which is from aorine. I do not know how to pronounce Greek, as I've mentioned in the past. And that means to lift, L-I-F-T. Next, we have aortic arch, 2 words. It's a noun from 1802. One of the arterial branches in vertebrate embryos that exist in a series of pairs with one on each side of the embryo connect the ventral arterial system line anterior to the heart to the dorsal arterial system above the alimentary tract and persist in adult fishes, but are reduced or much modified in the adult of higher forms. Those long definitions are rough, but I got through it. Yay! Next, we have aortography. It's a noun from circa 1935. Arteriography of the aorta. Artographic is an adjective. Next, we have aoudad. I think that's how it's pronounced. A-O-U-D-A-D. This is a noun from 1809. A wild bovine of North Africa that is closely related to goats and sheep and has been introduced into the southwestern U.S., called also aoudad sheep or Barbary sheep. Next, we have a French word or phrase that I will try to pronounce. I think it is outrans. The first word is the letter A with an accent. The second word is O-U-T-R-A-N-C-E. It's an adverb from 1819. It means to the limit. Synonym is unsparingly. Next, we have AP, all lowercase. It's an abbreviation for 1, apostle, and 2, apothecaries. There's an apostrophe after the S, so it's the possessive of the plural. Is that right? I think so. Next, we have AP, all caps. This is an abbreviation for 1, additional premium, 2, adjective phrase, 3, airplane, 4, American plan, 5, anti-personnel, 6, arithmetic progression, 7, armor piercing, 8, Associated Press, and 9, author's proof. That might be the most definitions I've seen for an abbreviation. Next, we have the prefix AP. It's the first form, and it says see the prefix AD, add. Now we have the second form of the prefix ap, and it says see the prefix apo, APO. Next, we have APA, all caps. It's an abbreviation for 1, American Psychiatric Association, and 2, American Psychological Association. Next and last word for this episode is apace, A-P-A-C-E. It's an adverb from the 14th century. 1, at a quick pace. Synonym is swiftly, as in growing apace. 2, we have the synonym abreast, used with the words of or with, as in trying to keep apace with changes in technology. And technology changes so fastly, it's very hard to keep apace with it. This is Middle English, probably from the Middle French pas, a space P-A-S, which means on step. And the word of the episode I'm going to pick is anywheres, just because I think it's funny. That is it. If you want to say anything, follow me, whatever. I've got Twitter and Facebook and an email address. All of that information is in the episode details. And say hi. That's it. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Dictionary, coming at you every single day. If you are a brand new listener, I suggest going back to the beginning. I know I start out rough, but I get better and better as I learn the dictionary, and it's a journey we're going on together. First word for this episode is Apache, capital A-P-A-C-H-E. This is a noun from 1703. 1, a member of a group of American Indian peoples of the southwestern U.S. 2. Any of the Athabascan languages of the Apache people. Athabascan, I think I pronounced that correctly, is spelled Athabascan. The three definitions are not capitalized, so here we have 3A. A member of a gang of criminals, especially in Paris. That's interesting. 3B, we have the synonym ruffian, Ruffian. Apachean is an adjective or a noun. Next, we have a word that I'm afraid I'm going to pronounce incorrectly. It is spelled Apanage, and it could be either appanage or appanage. I'm guessing those are the two most likely pronunciations. But it is a variation of the same word but with two P's instead of one. And of course, because it is a variation of another word, it's not telling me how to pronounce it because I could just skip ahead to the actual word and find that out. But that's not really how I'm doing this podcast. Next, we have aphaerejo, Aparejo. This is a noun from 1828, a pack saddle of stuffed leather or canvas. Pack saddle is all one word, and this is an American Spanish word, aphaerejo. Next, we have the word apart. It's the first form of two. This is an adverb from the 14th century. 1A, at a little distance. Synonym is tried to keep apart from the family squabbles. 1B, away from one another in space or time, as in towns 20 miles apart. 2A, as a separate unit. Synonym is independently, as in viewed apart, his arguments were unsound. 2B, so as to separate one from another, as in found it hard to tell the twins apart. 3. Excluded from consideration. Synonym is aside. As in, a few blemishes apart, the novel is excellent. 4. In or into two or more parts. Two pieces. Synonym is coming apart at the seams. Now we have the second form of apart. It's an adjective from 1680. 1. We have the synonyms separate and isolated. As in, those athletes are a breed apart. 2. Holding different opinions. Synonym is divided. Apartness is a noun. Now we have apart from. It's a preposition from 1724. The definition is other than. And in that case, than is THAN, not THEN. And then we have the synonyms besides and except for. Now we have apartheid, Apartheid. This is a noun from 1947. 1. Racial segregation, specifically a former policy of segregation and political and economic discrimination against non-European groups in the Republic of South Africa. 2. We have the synonyms separation and segregation, as in cultural apartheid or gender apartheid. This is an Afrikaans word, taking the word apart, which is the same in English, plus the suffix heid, H-E-I-D, which means hood, H-O-O-D. This is obviously a very big deal if you are not familiar with it. It's definitely something to look into and be aware of. The host of The Daily Show, Trevor Noah, he grew up in South Africa in the 1980s, and his parents were mixed, white and black, European and African, however you want to describe that. And so technically, because of apartheid, he was illegal. It was illegal for his parents to have a mixed-race child. And so he had to be very careful about being in public. It's a very sad story. I think he wrote a book about it, and I've heard a couple of interviews with him talking about that a little bit. So I highly recommend that. I'll see if I can find an interview on YouTube or something and put that in the episode description. Next, we have the word apartment. It's a noun from 1641. 1. a room or set of rooms fitted especially with housekeeping facilities and usually leased as a dwelling. 2. A building containing several individual apartments. Apartmental is an adjective. Now we have apartment building. It's a noun from 1845. A building containing separate residential apartments, called also apartment house. Now we have apartment hotel. It's a noun from 1874. A hotel containing apartments as well as accommodations for transients. Next we have apathetic. It's an adjective from 1744. 1. Having or showing little or no feeling or emotion. Synonym is spiritless. 2. Having little or no interest or concern. Synonym is indifferent. And then a synonym for both definitions is impassive. Impassive. Apathetically is an adverb. Next we have apathy. Apathy. It's a noun from 1594. 1. Lack of feeling or emotion. Synonym is impassiveness. 2. Lack of interest or concern. Synonym is indifference. This is from the Greek apathes or apathes, which means without feeling, and that is from combining a plus pathos, which means emotion, and there's more at the word pathos. Next we have appetite. Apatite. It's a noun from 1794. Any of a group of calcium phosphate minerals occurring in various colors as hexagonal crystals, as granular masses, or in fine-grained masses as the chief constituent of phosphate rock and of bones and teeth, especially calcium phosphate fluoride. So no, this is probably not the word appetite you were thinking of, which has 2 P's, and maybe it's an E instead of the second A. I'm not sure, and I'm not going to go look, but this is a different word. The etymology says this is from the German Appetit, which is from the Greek apate, again, pronunciation bad, and that means deceit, D-E-C-E-I-T. Next we have Apatosaurus. It's a noun from 1878, and we have the synonym Brontosaurus. I thought we got rid of the name Brontosaurus, so maybe we replaced it with Apatosaurus. But if that's the case, I kind of thought that they would have just gotten Brontosaurus out of the dictionary altogether, and then there just would have been a description of an Apatosaurus here. But this is combining the Greek apate, which, did we just read that? Deceit? That's what we read in appetite. It looks like it's the same word with the same accent on the E, plus the word sauros, which means lizard. So does that mean a lizard that deceits? Or maybe we were deceived by this lizard's bones, which we called Brontosaurus, but it's really an Apatosaurus? I don't know. I'm going off the rails. All right, next we have APB, all caps. This is an abbreviation for All Points Bulletin. You've probably heard this on cop TV shows or films. Next we have APC, and I think this will be the last word for this episode. It is all caps. It's a noun from 1952. An armored vehicle used to transport military personnel. We get APC from Armored Personnel Carrier. The word of the episode is going to be apartheid, because in my mind it's kind of the biggest, most important word that we read. So that will end the episode. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds, and welcome to another episode of the dictionary. All right, let's get to the first word. It is ape, A-P-E. It's the first form of 3. I love apes and primates and monkeys. They're my favorite animals. Yep. Now you know a little bit more about me. This is a noun from before the 12th century. 1A. The synonym is monkey, especially one of the larger tailless or short-tailed Old World forms. 1B. any of various large tailless semi-erect primates of Africa and southeastern Asia, as the chimpanzee, gorilla, orangutan, or gibbon. Of course, I always used to say orangutan. I think most people do. But there is no G at the end, so I learned that it's really orangutan. And then the end of the definition says, called also anthropoid or anthropoid ape. And then compare to the synonym great ape. Was there a drink called grape ape? No, it was a cartoon character. Yeah, I think there was a cartoon character called Grape Ape. 2A, we have the synonym mimic. And with that definition, the word ape is often used in crossword puzzles. 2B, a large, uncouth person. Ape-like is an adjective. All right, let's do the second form of the word ape. It's a transitive verb from 1632. To copy closely, but often clumsily and ineptly. Synonym is the word copy. Aper is a noun. And now we have the third form of ape. It's an adjective from 1955. Synonyms are crazy and wild, usually used in the phrase, go ape. Don't mind if I do. Next we have a peak. A-P-E-A-K. A word I don't think I've ever seen before. It's an adjective or adverb from 1596. Being in a vertical position, as in with oars apeak. I'm assuming that's oars like in a boat or a canoe. The etymology says this is an alternative of earlier a pike, A-P-I-K-E, probably from the French apic, which means vertically. Next we have ape man. There is a hyphen between the two words. It's a noun from 1869. A primate, as in Australopithecine, intermediate in character between Homo sapiens and the higher apes. And yes, I think I actually did say Australopithecine correctly. Next we have a French word that I'm sure I will butcher, but it is something like aperçu. Yeah, sort of. It is spelled A-P-E-R-C-U, and the C has that accent underneath the letter. I do not know what it is called. Apologies for that, but you know what I'm talking about. This is a noun from 1809. 1. A brief survey or sketch. Synonym is outline. 2. An immediate impression, especially the 2 definition for the word insight. So yes, as I said, this is French from the verb apercevoir, or voir, which means to perceive. That is from Old French apercevoir. I do not know how to pronounce this. A-P-E-R-C-E-I-V-R-E. And that means to perceive. And there's more at the word perceive. There was some other information, but it basically says the same thing that I already said. Next, we have aperient, A-P-E-R-I-E-N-T. It's an adjective from 1626, gently moving the bowels. Wow, did not expect that. Synonym is laxative. Aperient is also a noun. Next, we have aperiodic. It's the word periodic with an A at the beginning. It's an adjective from 1871. Of irregular occurrence, not periodic, as in aperiodic floods. 2. Not having periodic vibrations, not oscillatory. Aperiodically is an adverb, and aperiodicity is a noun. Next we have aperitif, A-P-E-R-I-T-I-F. This is a noun from 1894. An alcoholic drink taken before a meal as an appetizer. I hope that's not the only appetizer you're having because you're going to get drunk pretty quick. Next we have aperture, A-P-E-R-T-U-R-E. This is a noun from the 15th century. 1. An opening or open space. Synonym is hole. 2a. The opening in a photographic lens that admits the light. 2b. The diameter of the stop in an optical system that determines the diameter of the bundle of rays transversing the instrument. 2C, the diameter of the objective lens or mirror of a telescope. As I've mentioned in the past, I have a background in film and video and photography, and so I am familiar with this term, aperture, and I find the whole mechanics and optics of lenses pretty interesting. I don't know the physics of it really. I only know the very tip of the iceberg, but it's pretty interesting when you really dig into it. Let's see, the etymology says this is Latin from apertus, which is from the verb aperire, which means to open. Next we have apetalous, apetalous. This is an adjective from circa 1706, having no petals. And petals is spelled P-E-T-A-L-S. Those are the petals on a flower, not the pedals on a bike. Next we have apex. This is a noun from 1601, 1a, the uppermost point. Synonym is vertex, as in the apex of a mountain. 1b, the narrowed or pointed end. Synonym is tip, as in the apex of the tongue. 2, the highest or culminating point, as in the apex of his career. I think I've hit mine. Synonym for all definitions is the word summit. Next we have APGAR score. 2 words. The first word is capital A-P-G-A-R. This is a noun from 1959, an index used to evaluate the condition of a newborn infant based on a rating of 0, 1, or 2 for each of the 5 characteristics of color, heart rate, response to stimulation of the sole of the foot, muscle tone, and respiration, with 10 being a perfect score. So in each of those 5 characteristics, if the baby did a great job in each of those, it seems like they would have gotten a 2, which totals up to 10. I wonder what score I got. Maybe that's in my old records or something. I'll have to look into that. See if my parents have that somewhere. This is named after Virginia Apgar, died in 1974, and she was an American anesthesiologist. I love saying that word. All right, I think we will do one more for this episode. It is aphaeresis. A-P-H-A-E-R-E-S-I-S. This episode is filled with words I've never heard before. It's a noun from 1550, the loss of one or more sounds or letters at the beginning of a word, as in round for around or a round. Now, who says a round? It's around. And coon for raccoon. I don't know if they needed to put coon in there. That seems a little bit racist, even though they're specifically talking about raccoons, but the history of that word is not great. So can you change that, please, dictionary? Thanks. Aphoretic is an adjective. This is from the Greek aphaeresis, which literally means taking off, and that is from aphaerein, which means to take away. That is from apo plus herein, which means to take. What, oh, what shall I choose to be the word of the episode? There's a bunch in here that I liked. Ape, ape man, aperitif, apgar score. What do you think? Let me know. Send me an email, a tweet, a message on Facebook. I liked aperture too. This is a hard one. I think I'm just going to have to go with ape. As I said, apes and monkeys and primates are my favorite animals, and so they have a very special place in my heart. The 1A definition of ape had the synonym monkey, which reminded me of a phrase that I learned how to say backwards a while ago. I won't go into the details, but I will say it now for you, and then I will reverse it, and then we will end the episode. So it is Ignomamaya imtakul. Hopefully that worked out well. I'll find out in the editing. That is the end of the episode. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Maybe I should learn how to say dictionary backwards. Okay, bye.